Let's do this.
Woo!
Ring the bell. This is Between the Ropes.
Oh, you're going for the dirt, for the behind-the-scenes stuff.
It's time to get between the ropes. Between the Ropes.
Coming up next Tuesday, August 5th. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. Will be available.
No, stop. My name is Paul Heyman.
Yes, your name is Paul Heyman, but it will be available.
Your name is Brian Fritz.
That's very correct, but it's going to be available on Blu-ray and DVD for everybody to be able to watch this magnificent DVD from the reviews that I've been seeing so far about it, Paul. Do you concur?
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet. When do you plan on watching it?
I don't. You should watch it, though. You should do a review of it.
I'd love to. I didn't get a copy of it yet.
Well, then let's bring the publicist. Get on the line, publicist.
Yes.
Publicist.
Yes, Mr. Heyman.
Mr. Fritz here doesn't have a copy of the Blu-ray and or the DVD. Now, Mr. Publicist, this is a terrible, terrible thing. We're supposed to be bribing and or blackmailing Mr. Fritz. How can we solve this problem, Mr. Publicist?
I'm gonna get on my assistant right now and make sure they get out a copy of that. My name is Paul Heyman Blu-ray and DVD.
No, my name is Paul Heyman.
Yes, the DVD's name is also Paul Heyman, and we'll get that to Mr. Fritz.
I appreciate that.
Please.
Paul, when are you going to watch?
Thank you, Mr. Publicist.
Yeah, when are you going to watch your Blu-ray? Because you've got a copy of it.
Me personally, I have watched the extras on both the DVD and the Blu-ray because even though the stories are about me, most of them are not by me. I just can't imagine sitting down and watching 2 hours about me. And about the past. I'm probably going to end up having to do it because my kids will have a lot of questions regarding it. But I'm kind of dreading that moment, except for the bonding time I have for 2 straight hours watching something with my kids.
Will you watch it with your kids, or would you let them watch it on their own?
If my kids are going to wait for me to sit down and watch this, they're really not going to get to see it before Hanukkah. So I think my kids are going to watch it without me and then come to me with a bunch of questions, which I'll have to then watch it with them and answer.
Was it as torturous for you to sit down and be interviewed for the DVD? Because you're somebody, like you said, that doesn't like to reflect a lot on the past.
Yeah, it was... I had to resign myself to the fact that I was going to sit down and be interviewed, which is why we did it in a... I kind of drove the WWE production crew crazy because I postponed the interview about 7 times, just procrastinating as much as I could until deadline. And then I think a couple of weeks after deadline, we finally sat down, and the interview lasted around 14 or 16 hours. We just sat down and knocked it out in one fell swoop. It's just against everything that I was raised to view. The vantage point for me is always looking forward. I just don't spend my time dwelling on the past.
Was there anything that was not talked about when you sat down for this marathon interview, or something that you were surprised that didn't get brought up?
No. It was. I never asked to see the questions in advance. I didn't want to know them. Nor was I offered to see the questions in advance. It was no holds barred. I have no problem with any question that's going to be asked of me on the record. I was quoted, so that I'm not giving the same quote to everybody, so I'll preface this by saying I was quoted elsewhere. I was quoted elsewhere by saying, unlike Frank Sinatra, I have no regrets. And the fact is, I really don't have any regrets because everything that I've done in my life has led to this point, and I'm ecstatic with the point that I am at in my life at this moment. So I really have nothing to complain about. Whether I have made mistakes in my life, of course I have, because I've taken chances in my life, because I've pushed too hard in my life, because I've been passionate about something that I'm willing to stand in the line of fire in my life. And for those reasons, I have nothing to be ashamed of, mistakes and all. A life without controversy is a very boring existence. And luckily, I have been the center of and surrounded by controversy since I was a teenager. It's been an exhilarating ride.
Has there been one period that you enjoyed more so than another? Because it is such an exhilarating ride and such an interesting story.
You're interviewing me now, and I'm 48 years old, and in the middle of a historic year with Brock Lesnar, where my kids are old enough to enjoy it, and I can honestly say to you, this is the best time of my life. Had you interviewed me during even the darkest days of ECW, because it was my company, and I loved it with such a passion, I could tell you honestly, at that juncture, it's the greatest time of my life. Had you interviewed me when I was in WCW and I was working with established talent like Rick Rude and emerging talent like Steve Austin, I could honestly tell you at that point, this is the greatest time of my life. Had you interviewed me when I was a kid and I was editing 3 wrestling magazines and going to shows all over North America and working as a publicist and photographer and producer and promoter at Studio 54, I could honestly tell you at that point, this is the greatest time of my life. And I hope if you interview me in a year or in 5 years or in 10 years, I will honestly be able to say to you, this is the greatest time of my life. So I've been very fortunate in that I have been afforded career opportunities in my life that have been so much fun and have allowed me to pursue with so much passion that I can look at that part of my life while I'm living it and say, wow, this is as good as it gets.
You're brutally honest in the Blu-ray and DVD. Was it tough to open up like that in that vein?
No, because that was the forum I was provided. Everything in life is about dealing with the circumstances that you are exposed to at the moment. The opportunity to discuss controversial decisions on this documentary required blunt and brutal introspection and therefore the presentation of confession and complete honesty and openness and transparency. And that's not to say, no, that's it. I'll leave it at that.
Well, there's been so many people that have described you in so many ways, whether positive or negative. And when we see you on television, you always look so bulletproof. When was the last time, or has there been a time where somebody outside of your family has said something that really hurt you?
I don't mean to sound insensitive, but it's very easy to offend me. It's very difficult to do so long term. The only opinions that should truly matter are those of my children. If I spend my day worrying what anybody else thinks of me, I'll never get anything done in my life. That's not to say you have to do things that are unethical or immoral. You can live a righteous life and still have your critics. There are people in this world who can point the finger at Mother Teresa and find something wrong with what she's done with her life. There are people who criticize the Pope. There are editorials online about what a horrible man Abraham Lincoln or Martin Luther King truly were. And you look at these people, and they're all eligible for sainthood, and yet there are those who sit there and spend their time finding reasons not to like them. So, can I be offended easily? Of course, I'm a human being. Do I let it sit with me for a long time? No, I don't.
The on-screen work that we see you doing right now, especially with Brock Lesnar, do you feel like this is the best work you've done in your life?
I think every performance on Monday Night Raw is simply an audition to be on TV the following week. So, yes, I think I am delivering the best on-screen work of my career, and I'm very cognizant of the fact that I better be better. Let me rephrase it. That I need to be better next week than I am this week, and I must be better 2 weeks from now than I am next week.
We all saw the reaction of what happened at WrestleMania this past year when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker and ended the streak. We saw your media reaction, the fans' reaction. What was your reaction to the fans' reaction 5 seconds after the 3 count?
We got him.
You did.
That's exactly what went through my head. Okay, we got him. This is what I told Brock. We got him. When I got to Brock, it's funny. You know, there's the legendary story that when Ivan Koloff pinned Bruno Sammartino in Madison Square Garden in 1971 for the title, that there was dead silence. You know, the proverbial you could hear a pin drop, and that people thought they had gone deaf, or Bruno thought he had gone deaf. You know. And I got to Brock, and he thought he had lost his hearing for a moment. And I said, "We got him." And I could just tell by the way that he turned his head that he was surprised that he could hear what I was saying, because he couldn't hear anything. There was such silence. You know, in front of 70-some-odd thousand people, it was eerily silent, and you could just hear the gasp of that audience, which to me spelled out unequivocally, we got him. In an industry where there is no true way to ever surprise or shock the audience in a way that's right for business. You could have Lillian Garcia hit the ring and beat John Cena for the championship, and that would truly shock the audience, but it's not right for business. Brock Lesnar conquering the streak with no controversy, clean, F5, shoulders on the mat, no interference, no distraction, 1, 2, 3, was shocking. And it was right for business. So in an industry where those moments just don't happen anymore, that was as big a moment as you could possibly deliver to the audience. And when it happened, that was my reaction. Wow, man, we really got him.
Last thing, you're still very driven, you're still very passionate, but what's the biggest way you think you've changed over the last 10, 15, even 20 years?
I would suggest in all humility, I'm far smarter in my approach than I was before. I've learned from my own inability to quell my passion, which led to people paying too much attention to how bombastic I was, how aggressive I was, how passionate I was in pursuing the implementation of my concepts, to where, much like a politician that finally learns the right balance, the more successful diplomacy. Before I would charge ahead, fight my battles, and wage war to make things happen. And now I have a better understanding of appealing to the Congress and the Senate and the Supreme Court in implementing a particular vision. And a lot of that has to do with, number one, a comfort level. Number two, learning from my own experiences, good and bad. And number three, I think I carry more credibility than I did in the past, because I'm no longer viewed as someone trying to continue a revolutionary way to dramatically change everything on the map. And I'm probably viewed more as someone who has a wealth of experience, who brings that experience to the table in his assessment of current situations.
The documentary is titled Ladies and Gentlemen, My Name is Paul Heyman. It will be available on Blu-ray and DVD Tuesday, August the 5th. Paul, appreciate the time. Keep up the fantastic work, and looking forward to seeing you not only on Raw in the future, but also at SummerSlam in the corner of Brock Lesnar when he faces John Cena for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
Thank you very much, sir.
The talking is over. Thanks for downloading Between the Ropes.
No, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
For more, go to BetweenTheRopes.com and subscribe to Between the Ropes on iTunes.
Thank you. Have a nice day.